Hey everybody, looks like we have made it to yet another Wednesday. It's so good to see you. And we have John. It's so cool to see you, John. And who else? Willie, how's it going? Good to see you guys. So we made it to another Wednesday. I hope you guys are doing well. How are you guys, John and Willie? I'm going to go down to my library so I can see everything on the big screen here. Let's see. My videos. And I'm looking for part 4. There we are. Now I'm just going to look at the picture. How's the picture and sound quality today? It looks pretty good on my big screen so far. What do you guys think? Well, let me lower the volume. Sounds good over here. Let's go ahead and hit the mute button. There we go. Okay, so we are all set. Hey, Luis, how's it going? How you doing? Live from Panama. Good to see you. Venezolano in the house. All right. So Willie's doing fine, and that's really good. I'm going to turn on the air conditioner because I guess all these lights, it's always kind of warm. So you might hear a slight hum, but, hopefully it won't be too much of a distraction. Let me go ahead and adjust this here. It's just going to be one quick moment, guys, and then we'll start this live stream. Did you guys like the video I did today? Did you guys like the video I did today on Frisket film? You can see it on my YouTube channel. It's actually did really well, almost 100 hits already. So thank you, John. And Luis, I'm so glad that you are practicing. That is the best. What I do recommend is when you're always going to have scrap paper. Always good results. The bad results, you might as well have it done during the practice than have it doing, on your regular artwork. So you're doing great, Luis, and you illustrate the point that practice is so important. Hey, Brad, good to see you. How are you, my friend? How's everything? So cool. We have a nice group already, so I'm very happy about that. So I always say when you are working, you always want to have the same paper to go ahead and test. So, with my ink mixtures, there's less of a hit and miss, but still you want to test out and make sure that, everything is fine, that the light mixture is working. Your airbrush is doing well. Tone, good to see you. How are you, my friend? All right. Oh, Willie hasn't seen it yet. Oh, check it out. It's not bad. I went over a couple of new findings. Hi, Wendy. How you doing? Good to see you. How you feeling? Okay, so we are doing pretty good so far. Okay, so the difference between last week and this week is I put Frisket on here and I cut Frisket. So now I just have the her exposed because I want to get some really beautiful edges. So that's really really important, not impossible. So let's go ahead and start making some of this happen. I don't have to be so careful now. I'm still in the light mixture. I don't have to be so careful because I have the Frisket covering the outer edge. So it's almost like using a alpha lock in digital art. And we're just going to continue darkening, not just darkening, but really shaping the lights and darks of her hair here. And looking at the big shapes. Big shapes are so important. Actually, big shapes are crucial, So that is everything. So always do that. And let's see. So as you see, that's pretty funny there, Brad. And so we're just continuing to get those large shapes, right? Because that's what's really important, is to get the large shapes down, because once you have the large shapes down, then you can get real specific. So have you guys been following my weekly free art lessons that I'm doing on Facebook? They seem to be very popular. Luis says, the bad I've wanted to fix a shadow I've done too dark and applied a layer of white, ended up with a weird stain of yes. Well, when you do stuff like that, it's good. It's good knowledge, because now you know about the blue shift in white, and you never want, of course, as you know now, Luis, never want to put white over dark, because it really is horrible, you know. There we go. And so we're just going to continue moving around. Well, yeah, that's pretty much, once that happens, you're in pretty bad shape. I mean, you can slowly darken it with ink, but you can always darken. You can always put dark over white, but once you get that blue shift with the ink, it's very difficult to fix. There are ways to fix it, but you have to ask yourself. I mean, is it worth it? You know, but that's something that you want to decide. But what you could do is you could email that to me, and I can take a look and see if there's something we could do. I'd be happy to, see if we can fix that for you. Because I would have to look at it, you know. But I'm glad to, definitely, Luis. If we can fix it, we'll definitely try. I'm always willing to help out, you know. There is a way to fix blue shift if you're working with Createx or Golden or something like that. There is a way to fix it. And Drew is really perfect. Drew Blair has a perfect method for doing that. So as you see, I'm moving around still with the light mixture. And remember, we're painting a woman, so we want to try and keep the forms rounded as possible by paying attention. You don't want her forms to be too harsh like a man's. Nothing kills a woman's portrait than her being mannish with all these really harsh edges. You know, you want to soften those edges. When you're doing a portrait of a woman, I always tell my students, subtlety is not key, it's everything. And that's the important thing. Subtlety is everything when it comes to painting a woman's portrait. Now this part isn't frisket. I wish I could have done a frisket of her jawline. That would have been nice. So hindsight's always 20/20, it seems. But if I was able to frisket her jawline, I could get even a more beautiful edge there. Okay. So you see, as I'm getting more and more deeper into this portrait, I'm really conscious of the fact that I need to keep things on the soft side. And that could definitely cause a problem if it's not. Oh, you trashed it. Oh, okay. Well, let's take a look anyway, and maybe I can give you a game plan, right? If maybe for the next time, in case that happens, we can look at it together. I'm always willing to help, guys. So always feel free to email me. So I'm looking at some of the large shapes of the hair, and you always want to look at the large shapes of the hair. So important. 1 second rule is always, always, always in effect. Never is a 1 second rule not important. And in my video I did today on frisket, even when you're cutting frisket, the 1 second rule is still in effect. So important. Wow. So it's, Willie says that it's going to the 30s tonight in Texas. Wow. Or is that in your neck of the woods there in Massachusetts? You know, I haven't even looked at the weather, guys. It's just been so busy. Busy is a good thing. So I'm happy if I'm busy. And let's see if we can work on her ear. Just want to perpendicular and not parallel. I don't have to worry. The frisket's covering, so I can be a little more flamboyant with my strokes here. Remember, always, 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 when doing women's portraits, soften the edges as much as possible, you know, within the confines of the 1 second rule. Oh, Luis says he's going to start another one. He just wants to know if you have a technique. It is fixable, depending on the severity of the blue shift, as far as what I do. Now, there will be times when it just isn't worth the work, you know. You might as well just start a new one. But, you know, when it comes to, you know, it all, ask yourself, is it worth it? Are you that far invested into the painting, or do you just start a new one and just, you know, cut your losses, that sort of thing? So those are things you definitely have to ask yourself. So that's always, always what you want to do, you know. But it's always dependent on, you know, what you, let's see here. And, okay. So we're continuing with her ear, and oh, that's right. Women are softer than men. I'm gonna stick to that. That's for sure. So Willie's in Massachusetts, and Todd. Todd, how you doing? Good to see you. Oh, Todd uses the 1 second rule in the mirror. I'm gonna stick with that. Women are softer. That's what makes me so crazy about them. So I'm sticking with it, and backlash, come and get me. Cancel culture, cancel culture, right? They call it cancel culture. Yep. Well, you know, I'm guilty. But it's so true, Brad. You have to be careful everything you say these days sometimes, right? Willie says good for you. Hey, that's one of the best qualities of women, are that they're more sensitive, you know? Hey, Mike, how's it going? Good to see you, my friend. So glad you're here. No, not on Facebook for these. These are always, the Wednesday night are always exclusive, Todd, for you guys, my YouTube subscribers, my ink flingers. So this is just for you guys. So it's great to see you, Mike. Thank you so much for coming by. And we're just cleaning up her ear here. And remember, it's one of the things that I was working with a student of mine, and we were talking about how sometimes a form is described by the value beside it. So it's not necessarily an outline of the form, but it's the value or the color of the form beside it that actually describes it and gives it its shape. So that's pretty cool. So it's not always an outline or a value, but sometimes it has so much to do with what's next to it, and that helps describe the form, you know? So that's always good to look at. So I'm actually closing in on 3,000 subscribers. 2,862 subscribers so far. So anyone out there who is enjoying this, who hasn't subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You'll be alerted when new videos come out, not just my live stream. So that would be pretty cool. I'm going to start doing some digital art content as well. So, and how it relates to as an airbrush artist or just as an artist as a whole. So definitely hit that subscribe button if you can. That would be cool, so we can get to 3,000. Doesn't really mean much, but it's cool, you know. It just shows that I'm doing a good job, that I reached 3,000 subscribers. We're not there yet, but with your help, I definitely could be. Yes, Brad, good question. Still using the light mixture, getting ready for the medium mixture a little bit, to darken the nose area, stuff like that, you know. So, yeah, so this Saturday at this Saturday at 9 o'clock, I think we're going to do something. We might do the hand, we're not sure exactly, but it's going to be cool. It's going to be very interesting. Now I can start to establish some areas here, but let's just work on this ear a little bit, her ear a little bit. Now there is, and I'm going to delineate that with pencil first, just so I know where to spray, because this kind of illustrates the point what I'm saying. It's the value next to or adjacent to it that's going to describe the forms, not a line. Now, line is beautiful, and I love line, but sometimes it's just not there. And we have to be aware when it's just not there. Hey, that rhymes, right? Got to be aware when it's just not there. Oh, Wendy loses her days. No problems. Don't worry about that. I leave them here on YouTube so you could watch it. And that one was the nose. Brad was there, and Air Todd was there. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. We really, you know, got a lot done. Wow, what's going on today? You know, I'm just sort of poetic, I guess. All right, so I'm going to be doing videos on Krita and videos on the Huion, their tablets, and I'm going to do videos on Procreate. Those are coming up. So those are exciting. And I know there's purists out there who are like, oh my God, digital art, that's horrible. And I understand where you're coming from more than you know. I'm classically trained in oils and pastel, and pencil, charcoal, you name it. The classical mediums, I've been there and studied with the greats. You know, when I say the greats, my teacher's literally great, and very blessed for that. And I was always told how to stay away from digital art, and I was also told to stay away from airbrush back then too. So to put that in perspective, if I listened to all of that, then this wouldn't be happening. And so I think the proper way for me to look at anything is to ask me, how does it help the big picture, right? How does it relate to airbrush? How does it relate to pastel? How does it relate to Tim as an artist, of me expressing myself? And that's important, because what I'm planning on doing is to expose how digital art can make you a better airbrush artist, how it can make you a better pastel painter, a a better cartoonist, whatever you're doing, how digital art can be an aid or a learning tool or to help you express yourself even more. And that's, to me, is the level of how this could be such a great thing. Willie says he thought I was bad with the airbrush. Wow, digital art is hard. Not after you see some of the videos I got coming up, Willie. You're going to have a great time with it, and it's going to help your... And Brad says digital art is such a great tool for planning our art. Exactly, Brad. So true, you know? And that's the thing. And so... Oh, so Luis says, why would you wanted to stay away from airbrushing? Well, when I was going to school at the National Academy in the late 80s, I studied with very traditional painters. We're talking like painters who are now have their work in the Whitney and Museum of Modern Art, who are considered very important artists, right? So they were told that I was told through them that, and their teachers told them to stay away from airbrush because it's for commercial artists only. And so it was never taken seriously. There was no classes available for airbrush in the art schools. It was basically oil. You couldn't even work in acrylic, let's put it that way. That was just because there was a hierarchy of art, and of course oils and pastel was at the highest level. Then watercolor, acrylics were never even thought of. So I grew up with that, but it took me years to go ahead and become my own artist and say, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm going to look at it myself. And that's the thing. You want to make sure that I had to make sure that my reasoning for staying away from airbrush was valid, or was it someone else's valid reason? And when I did that, then I just fell in love with the medium, and look where we are today, you know? I mean, I haven't changed my art style. You're not seeing me do flaming skulls or anything like that. I'm still painting the way I paint, but I'm using it as a tool, like anything else, right? A pastel stick's a tool, a stump's a tool, a pencil's a tool. So what's really cool is that I learned that, you know, sometimes we shouldn't even express a work of art as much as its medium than as much as what we're painting or how we're painting it. I think that's more important. Now, I'm not saying that there's not cheating methods in all these different things, that there aren't methods that are much more mechanical and a lot less artistic. Yeah, I think that's true. There's higher levels of each art. There's higher levels of airbrush work. There's higher levels of digital art. And yes, they should not be in the same category, but it's all the spirit of doing it, right? I mean, if you have the same spirit of drawing and the same spirit of working out value and doing things the same way, then it could be liberating, and it could just open up your artistic world in a sense. So that's all cool stuff. And how they integrate together, I think that's the real exploration. It's like, how can my work, how can your work, Luis, your work, Willie, your work, Brad, how could your work integrate digital art that would make it better, that would help you to say what you want to say, and make it more fun for you? Let's face it, make it more enjoyable. That's why we do it, because we enjoy it. This is our own special time, right? So yeah, of course we want to make sure that we're enjoying this. So that eye is coming down, so I'm just making sure I get that shape. And there we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and calm down that outline, but we'll get there. There's no rush, right guys? That's for sure. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun, you know, and to me, you know why I like digital art in a sense? Because it's kind of like playing video games and painting at the same time. You know, I kind of like that aspect, honestly. You know, I love computers, and you can see just like my videos and everything like that, how computers has integrated itself into my art just by things such as working on my videos. That's technology and my art coming together. So ever so lightly, the upper eyelid here, see that? Ever so lightly, the upper eyelid is sort of much lighter. And let's get those angles right. And it comes down. See that? That upper eyelid. Now, that's the upper eyelid, so we definitely have to translate that. And that's going to be interesting. And we have to look at the angle of the ellipse of the iris, right? There's a definite angle of that ellipse of the iris, and we have to get that right. If that angle's not correct, unbelievable, you know? So we definitely have to really look to that and see how we're going to solve that. So here, you see at this part, it's much darker right there, and then still it's darker on this side. Let's make sure we have some paint coming out. We have some beautiful highlights coming down the pike here. So we're going to calm down on them. They'll come. And then right here, it's darker. Then it comes all the way to the corner of her eye. There we go. Now the corner of her eye, that's something that we have to look at. So what I'm going to do is I am going to open up Krita. So bear with me while I open up Krita. And we're going to do something where I'm going to show you a technique to make sure, you know, you always want to double check your drawing, right? Always, always. You never want to not double check your drawing. So I'm going to start a new file here, and just be one moment, guys. And I'm creating a file. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead, and I'll be right there. Import, paint layer, and it'll be worth the wait, trust me. Trust me, trust me. That's the famous last words, right? Trust me. No, but this case, I think it's a good thing to trust me. Let's see. Oh, I know where she is. There's so many different, so many different folders. I gotta find her. Okay, there she is. Okay. Now, all right. So here we go. So let me go here, and you can see what I'm doing. Cool. Okay. So here you see my picture, and I'm gonna come here. And I'm gonna use the transform tool. Hold down the shift key. If you hold down the shift key, you can resize it and keep your aspect ratio. Okay. So that's going to stay in there, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to hit the freehand brush tool. Okay, so let's make her bigger so you guys can see. All right, so there's her eye. So my question is, we're going to use this tool here, the line tool, and let's use white, shall we? Okay. So what I'm going to do is I have the corner of the eye here, and I'm going to do a horizontal line across. See this? So you see that horizontal line going across? That is letting me know how far I got to bring down that lower eyelid to where the bottom lid intersects with it. So this is where the digital art will help you. And it's so much better because if you're using, let's say, your pencil or whatever, it's still not going to have the same effect. So if I'm over here and I'm like, oh, well, it's over here, and then I'm using this, and then let me use my thumb, and, all those other things, it's really going to not be as effective as what I was doing there. So we'll go back to my critter screen here. So I'm looking here, and it's really just below the pupil. So you have the iris, which is this big area, and the pupil. That's the kind of thinking I want you to have, okay? It's so important. So let's go ahead and make that happen. Just below the pupil, okay? And all right, so here we are. So my pupil, let's look at her. Beautiful pupil here. So right here is about the pupil. And I'm going to go straight across. Okay, so now I know that I'm in the right ballpark, right? Otherwise, I'm not. And you can see how the likeness sort of happens. It's all about measurements, but you can see how the likeness comes together, and you can see how the expression starts coming together. This is so important. And this is a moment where, guys, write this down, whatever. This is really, really important. So I'm happy. It's like a light bulb moment for me as well. Louise says we live in a different world. Any art expression, it's art. If it catches your eye, either technique, just make it more interesting. Yes, and I think craft and beauty is important too. And you can have craft and airbrush, as you see, right? It doesn't have to be all stencils and everything. It could be as much craft as you want. So it's all about how you approach it, how the artist actually, the integrity of the artist, right? And that's all that, no matter what medium it is, Louise, so I agree. Brad says, I'd rather trust you than the government, but then I'd probably trust just anyone. Uh-oh, yes. I think this is being tapped, Be careful what you say, Brad. I don't know if Big Brother is actually watching my live stream. Big Brother might be an airbrush painter, might be using my India inks. Oh my God, that's too funny. Okay, so now we're going to work on the lower lid. So remember, we got that angle correct, right? That was so important. So you see, I'm going to do that. I used to call it the windowsill, so I looked at the anatomy books, and they call it the rim of the lower eyelid. So what do you guys think? Hand or foot as far as Saturday's class? What's more interesting? So I'm either going to do the hand or the foot, but it's going to be breaking it down anatomically, so it will be so easy to draw one and paint one in the future. So last week we did what did we do last week? The nose, so the hand, yes. One of the books I want you to get is George Bridgman's book, which is really just amazing, Constructive Anatomy by George Bridgman. And it's free online, and so that's really cool. And you can also purchase it. Hey, what's up there? Bill, good to see you. So everyone's the hand. We got, so that's cool. So it looks like it's the hand it is, So let's make that happen. Okay, now, corner of her beautiful eye. I'm hoping she's listening, so she's like, oh, he's so nice. That's right. You just walked into it in the middle of the conversation, but we're going to do the hand, how to draw the human hand in pencil on Saturday at 9 o'clock Eastern time. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So we're looking forward to it. Hope you can make it, Bill. Now we have a little bit, okay, so right here, we're going to make this one the inner line, because there is an outer line here, and it's ever so subtle, right? Remember, subtlety when drawing or painting a woman's portrait, and when you're doing a kid's portrait, round, 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 round. Everything's rounded when doing a kid's portrait, otherwise they're going to look like a little evil leprechaun or something. Yeah, I know we all seen those portraits of kids where they look like evil leprechauns, so we don't want that to happen. But then again, the kid might want to be an evil. You might want. You don't like the kid. You want the kid to look like an evil leprechaun. I don't know. I think I'm cracking myself up today. That's pretty funny. You made Billy look like an evil leprechaun, or little Tommy. Little Tommy's an evil leprechaun. That's horrible, Well, what are you going to do? So that's some funny stuff right there. So I'm thinking we're going to use our liner brush here. Let's go and use the liner brush. Remember, airbrush painting doesn't mean using the airbrush all the time. There's no points for doing it 100%. It's like, but I did it, all with airbrush. I deserve brownie points or whatever. Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever gets the job done, guys, it's all good. All's fair. Well, not all's fair, but, that's a little too wide sweeping a statement, right? I'm going to pull this down. There we go. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to bring this line right here. 1 second rule, guys. So important. Bring that down. And let's see, since I already have the paintbrush out, where can we use it? To help our cause, right? So Bill says that gives an idea. Gonna paint this lady's thing up as an evil leprechaun and shove it. At this rate, she's still not happy, and if she actually pays, oh wow! So you have one of those customers, huh? Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta cut your losses and say, you know what? Here's your money back. Have a good day. Minus the deposit. But I feel for you. $2 an hour. Wow, that's not good. So you see, we are going to just do some of these really thin lines. There we go. There we go. So we're going to lighten up as time goes on, because everything else is going to be darkening around it. Remember, how dark or light it is really depends on what's around it, the adjacent values. Everything looks dark right now because everything is super light. And so once we do on this side, we know we have to do on the other eye, right? So that's important. Well, you paint everything well there, Mr. Bill. So I don't think you are just, you paint everything well. So everyone feels that and knows that. So don't ever sell yourself short. I won't let you. You're a fine artist. Pull this down, bam, just like that. And if they, you got to look at it this way. If they don't like it, it just wasn't a good fit, and you got to just tell that client, I don't know, your style, whatever, it just isn't a good fit for her expectations. There we go. So you see, wow, look at that. The expression's starting to come. Remember when I always said, don't ever worry about likeness too early. It's not important. When I'm talking about my work here, it's not important. What's important is, sticking with the program and working it out. And then the work becomes a pleasure. You're not like, oh my God, it doesn't look like Muriel, So what, Some people are only satisfied in being unsatisfied. I hear that, you know? I definitely do. So So I'm proud to say that Tone actually is the owner of an Extreme Patriot Arrow. He just purchased one this week. And so tell us, Todd, what are some of your, Tone, what are some of your findings or your experience with the Extreme Patriot Arrow? Always love to hear. So what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to go ahead and do some measuring as well. Because what I want to do, and you have to always measure, you know, at all times, especially when you're doing something like this, where like, you're doing stuff that is hard to fix once you make that change, right? So let's move on over to our critter. So, and I can hit Control Z and get rid of that measurement. Then we're going to look at her teeth here. So what I want to do is I want to find out where this tooth starts. Even though it's super subtle, I still want to know where it starts. So I'm going to do a vertical line straight up. And there we go. So looking at that straight up vertical line looks like, I would say, the 1/3 point of the nostril to the beginning of the septum here. Okay, so let's go look at our, now we can go ahead and also extend that line, and we can actually see, okay, so basically it starts where the corner of the mouth sort of makes that straight turn of 3 and 9 o'clock right here. So those are two things that we definitely could look at. So let's go ahead and translate that into our physical artwork here. So now, time to make this happen. All right, so we're going to take that 1/3 and we're going to do a straight down. So as I'm going straight down, as I did here, I'm realizing that I was way too far over. So I could actually close that gap a little bit. And so that's, I can close the gap a little bit, right? And make that, bring that in. But I also can see that other measurements have to actually fall in line as well. So now I can see that the lower lip actually extends a little further down. See that? Actually comes further down. It's not corresponding with this line of the bottom lip. It actually goes down even further. So little adjustments such as that will make a difference. Now, I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm just noting that change in direction, and then I'm going to come back. But the thing is, I made that change, and that change is really important for when I want to go further with the medium mixture. You don't always want to complete a passage of your painting, you know, at one particular time, because there's always a right time and a wrong time to go ahead and work on that. If you went ahead and went too far with this, the surrounding areas aren't done, so you wouldn't really know the, you know, the relative value changes and everything like that. That's why painting the whole picture is really so important. Now it is a little bit darker right along the edge here, but what I have to do is wait for that to dry, and I want to cut that in because that lower lip is coming down at a lower angle than I currently have. So those are things that you always want to watch out for. It's not just what you're painting, but what's around it. So always keep that in mind. That's so important. I'm going to go ahead and spray some air on here. I want to super dry that. And so now if we look at her, we can see, so if I go to Critter, you can see how, let's hit Control Z, get rid of that. So you can see you have the lip here, and it's lighter on the upper lip at this point. It gets dark over here by the nostril, but it's lighter over here. So we're going to actually express the shape of the lip by putting a lighter value on this area right here. You want to have so many tools in your repertoire, right? So you definitely, you don't want to be a one-dimensional artist. You want to, the more tools you have, as long as you are aware in how to use them, they're going to be to your advantage. There we go. Just bring that down. There, and you can see we're starting to get even more of her expression and her likeness, which we don't care about. Although it's nice, right, when you see it, but we don't care about it, you know? We care, but we don't care. So guys, how many people are in the room right now? You know, the YouTube room so far. Just to see how we're doing today with the amount of people. Okay. I think last week we had 17 people in the room at one time. I think my record was like 21 at one time. 10, okay, that's not bad, it's not good, but the right 10 people are here, so that's how I got to look at it, right? It's not how many people, but whether the right people are here, so. You know, I see some of these artists, you know, they just like, so many people are watching them, you know, and I'm like, wow, how's that happening, you know? But it's all good. The right people are here. I'd rather have 10 good people than 52 people who don't know what the hell they're doing. So, definitely happy you guys are here. Oh, that's so cool. So that's going to be great. So, that's wonderful. So I'm glad to hear that, Bill. I think you're going to do great with live streaming. Live streaming is really a wonderful thing because you're really helping out people, you know, who normally can't afford classes or going to. But you know what? I really think those workshops that people go to, I don't know if those days are numbered as far as that goes, if everything's going to be online now, at least for a while. So I'm going to go ahead and work on the side plane of her face here. Oh, congratulations! Monetization! Way to go, my friend. So cool. That's a big milestone. Oh, fantastic, John. I'm really happy. I'm so glad that it helps, you know. And, you know, I enjoy you guys, you know, you guys and girls, you know. I mean, I really enjoy hanging out with you. And, you know, this is, I look forward to this, if not more than you guys look forward to it. Probably more. So you see, now that I have the frisket, I could really, like, hit that, you know. I don't have to worry about, look how beautiful that is, that when we have the frisket, we can really exploit that edge. Now here's a quick thing. So let's say you're working in an opaque shape in Krita, you can use something like Alpha Lock, and that will actually, it would be like putting masking tape or masking film like this around the image, so you can do the same thing. You won't go outside the image. So there's a lot of frisket techniques that are actually in digital art that will help you learn about being better use of frisket in your own work, you know. Well, you know, it is, it's what people want, you know, and I look at it this way, you know, what we have to offer is very unique, and everyone has something unique to offer. So I know who my audience are, and so do you, Bill. And you know, I'm not really interested in and as you aren't either. I'm not interested in placating the masses. You know, this is what I do, and I'm happy to share it, and I hope it helps people. But if it only helped one person, I'm still going to do it. You know, I'm still going to go ahead and do these this way. Uh, I have a specific art training, and I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to be the zany, you know, zany guy, you know, doing things so I get like a younger audience or whatever. It's just, this is who I am, and if you like it, hey, if they like it, I'm there for you. I'll answer any questions. We're cool, and let's just, you know, hang out, be good friends, and but just as you do as well. I'm just gonna be Tim, you know. And you don't like Tim? There's 1,000 other channels where you can find whoever it is they're looking for, whoever speaks to them. And I don't really care, you know. I see, you know, in the airbrush world, there's always that really tough-looking guy, you know. Yeah, I do tattoos and all this, and you know, and that's cool. Some of my best friends are tough guys, you know, but that's not me, you know. And you know, I have, you know, there's elements of me that kind of who I am, but I'm not going to change who I am. I'm still going to be my nerdy self, you know. And I think those who will accept Tim for Tim, that's who's my friend, and I'll accept you guys for who you guys are. So, you know what? I get 10 people in the group. I'm happy with those 10 because those guys, you guys accept me and I accept you. And that's it, you know? It's all about accepting and just enjoying your company. Everyone's welcome here in my live streams. There's no one is not welcome. I don't care. Anything, you know. Someone accepts me, I accept them. I'm probably the easiest person to be friends with, I think. There we go. See how we can actually darken that edge? That would not be possible if I didn't use Frisket, right, Bill? Frisket is so important to get these beautiful edges. There's no other way. Same thing with digital art. You know, when you're using the Alpha Lock, there's no other way to get that beautiful edge. So how digital art is helping me? It's helping me with the importance of using Frisket. Okay, now we are just going to continue a little bit more before we go into the medium mixture. But remember what I always say, you know, always ask ourselves, what are we neglecting, you know? So let's move over here. So there are some things in the work of doing some full-length videos for you guys, and so that's exciting. It'll be free for my Patreon members, so that's cool. So that's exciting. Oh, remember we did two contests where we haven't had the winner yet. So we never did the ink mixtures contest. We never finished that one, and the person who won the 1 year subscription to Airbrush Step by Step magazine never came forward. So we're going to go ahead and do another drawing with that, okay? So that's coming up pretty soon, maybe even next week. Okay, so where are we neglecting? You know, that's going to be my question here. I think the value is too light over here. So we want that. So this is Tim. I'm working, right? I see that eyelid. I want that eyelid to be just as strong as this eyelid, but it's not. So I have to dust that down. See that? I gotta definitely dust that down because it's in shadow. Remember, everything in the light side is a scream. Everything in the shadow side is a whisper. So meaning that the values are very similar on the shadow side, and the values are more disparate or different on the light side. So I hope that helps. There we go. And just getting that expression, you know, that's so exciting. I'm really happy about that. Now, okay, so we went ahead, worked on this eye, worked on that eye, worked on the hair, resolved the ear a little bit more, and let's go ahead and work on her neck area, and let's make that beautiful as she is. So, first things first. When I'm looking at the clavicle, and this is why, you know, working with digital art and in teaching is so important, because you guys are getting the fruit of these latest findings of mine. So here we go. We're going to go here. We're going to go back to Krita. So what we're going to look at is we're going to see, okay, so we're painting her clavicle, right? This is her clavicle. So the question we ask, the darkest dark, is it outside the clavicle or is it part of the clavicle form? Of course, that might seem like, Tim, of course, that's easy, you know, but it really isn't. It's something that we really have to explore. So the thing that I see here is, let's come over here. The thing that I see, let me make this bigger, is that right here, it's part of the form. You see this dark is part of the form. And then it sort of fades out over here and fades out over here. So it's part of the form and it's pretty dark here. So if I hit Control Z, you'll see exactly what I'm saying. See that? So this is dark over here, then fades. Dark over here, then fades. And it is part of the form of the clavicle. It's not the dark around it. Here's the trapezius muscle and the sternocleidomastoid. No, this dark line right here is actually part of that clavicle. So is that important? Extremely, because if you're going on a trip and you have a map, it's so much easier than if you're just going blindly with dark sunglasses. So John says his problem is spider webbing the ink. My patient still needs work. Remember, spider webbing is always two things. It is your distance. So if you're getting spider webbing, it's your distance that needs to be addressed. So that's one thing. So look at this. I'm getting spider web, but if I continue to move away, there's no spidering. Another thing is, don't stay in the same area twice or too long. Watch this. No spidering, right? I'm basically, but I'm moving. I'm not staying in the same area. But what happens if I stay in the same area? Oh, look at that, spidering. Because what's happening is you're building up ink. And you got to realize that when you have to hit that spot, let it dry, come back. Hit that spot, let it dry, come back, because you're just building up. You're building up ink, and it's almost like, trying to fit 3 gallons of water in a 2-gallon jug, that sort of thing. The paper can only absorb so much, and then it gets filled up, and then the water just spreads it out. So that's the first thing, is your distance. Second thing, you have a pack valve. I know you have one of these, and you can lower your pack valve, and you can lower the pressure, and then you could, find out by still doing those other things with distance and not staying in the same area. So those two things should solve your problem. And write that down, look and see, look and see if one of those issues are causing it, So definitely the fine line. So you're probably staying in one area too long, and it's just like physics, There's only so much that the paper can absorb, and when you keep putting ink in that one spot, even if it's a minute area, it's just going to fill up, and then and it's going to fill up on the surface, and then the air is going to spread that ink out, But do those two things and see how that works. And if you have any questions, always email me, okay? Always email. Always happy to help you guys. Okay, so remember, the dark is in the center here. It's like a dark line. We're using a light mixture, but then it fades out, you see? But you see, I wouldn't have known that if I didn't concentrate and then really look. But now I know, I'm informed. So you see how I just increase my distance to get more of a fade. And that's how, it's not just, remember, it's the contour, the shape, the value, the edges, and then the detail within each shape. That's the progression when working. So I hope that helps. Art and science are the same. I really feel that way. I think the more we are scientific and pragmatic about our work, the better chance we're going to do work that's exciting. Fly by the seat of our pants sort of craziness. Yeah, you might get lucky. You might get lucky and do 1 out of 100. That is something fantastic. But I don't want that ratio, See that? So now we're not just painting a portrait, but we're actually constructing her, understanding what makes up, her anatomy. So important. And, so now, I kind of understand, like, why I spent all those times and all those years in art school, traveling back and forth, taking 2 trains, a bus and 2 subways, and 4 blocks each way. Why did I do that? Well, several reasons. Because my work is actually, it paid off in my work, but also it gave me a foundation to do something that I can show and teach you guys. I had great teachers teach me, so naturally I learned just how to teach from them. And also how to teach yourself, how to take what your teacher gives you and take it somewhere further. See that? Now we're doing, now it looks like a clavicle, right? We did the line, there was a line, but there's also a value coming from that line because it's turning, right? Remember, when you're in 3 dimensions, it just doesn't turn from up top to bottom, it turns from left to right. So if your light source is on the upper right, then there's going to be an effect from right to left, and there's going to be an effect from top to bottom. And you have to understand both of those things, whether you're doing an eyeball, a toe, or a clavicle. So everything is being affected. So when you look at the whole and you say, wow, I really feel her, is because the artist is really paying attention to the light, the cut of the light in both directions. And let's go ahead and work on here. So these anatomy courses that I'm doing for free on Facebook and here on YouTube as well are really taking my work to a better level. Because remember, fundamentals are everything, whether it's baseball or anything else. Fundamentals are absolutely everything. So, you know, I'm understanding anatomy, and that is making my work and your work look more believable. Hey, I don't see anyone making comments. Are you an audience or an oil painting? That's what Rodney Dangerfield used to say. Okay, this side, right? We always got to make sure that we create a work together, bring everything up together. So this way we are going to create a work that's conducive and make it feel like at the end it all came together at once, as if it was painted all at once. So let's continue that. Okay, so we do have the clavicle on this side, since the way that her body is, we can see much more of the clavicle because her shoulder on the left side is much more higher on this side, so we see more of her clavicle. And this trapezius is more active, and this trapezius is more. So this trapezius on the left is more active and being flexed, and the trapezius on the left is not being flexed. John says, soaking up the info. Very cool. Okay, that's comforting. Thank you, sir. All right, so let's go ahead and let's see if we could work on her clavicle. So let's go ahead and go back to Krita, and let's look at the clavicle on the other side, shall we? Okay, didn't want to do that. Control Z. Okay, so let's move this over, and we're going to look at our clavicle. So we can see that the clavicle, of course, is much lower. So this part of her clavicle, where it's actually inserting into the sternum, is way up here, and right here is much lower. So we want to make sure that is working out. And then we have her neck here, and this is part of her sternocleidomastoid coming down in here, and a sternocleidomastoid coming down here. But right here is her clavicle, and there's also more muscles coming over here, and we have this shape. So those are things we definitely have to pay attention to when we go ahead and work on our painting. So let's go back. Hey, what's up there, Tom? Good to see you. So good for you to hang out. Either hypnotized or sleeping. I'm not sure which is which, my friend. That's funny. Good to see you, Tom. Always a pleasure, my friend. So yes, so what we have to do is we have to really understand what we're about to do, and sort of get her structure correct. And you know, it's always, thank you, my friend, it's always important to use your pencil. There are no rules here. So you know, we have our frisket over here. So right here we see we have here, which is muscle coming out over here. It's a little harder edge here, and then softens up significantly as we get down towards the clavicle. Like I said, it softens up significantly because, like I said, this is the active area, this is the passive area. So you'll see also when you're doing portraits and stuff like that, you'll have an active area and a passive area. in the face as well as in the body. So I'm going to keep my distance because all this is super soft. And same thing over here. There is some value as the trapezius is inserting over here. We are going to make sure we get that on the right side, the correct side. And we're going to go ahead, of course, and erase. So, but these little things, if you do a lot of little things correctly, it's really going to make a big difference, big payoff. So as I'm getting softer edge, I'm going to increase the distance of my airbrush. You see that? From the surface. Same thing here. Look here. Soft edge. See how hard I have that edge? So, you know, always be critical of yourself during the painting, during the painting process. You know, don't always trust what you did in the last session. There comes a time where you just have to say, screw it, I'm too far along. But when you're still able to make changes, make sure that you are critical of yourself so you can definitely make changes if necessary. So you see how soft this edge is here. So I have to soften that up. Now I'm using the Nock. This is a great pencil eraser, or great eraser. It's called the Mono 3. Oh my God, look, the lettering came off. The Mono 3.8 Nock eraser. It's a super soft eraser, but you can still do nice tight detail with it. And also you have, so this is the wonderful line of erasers. You have the Mono Eraser Zero, and this is like super, like Tom, you know, he does watercolors, and he's a watercolor painter. Fantastic, by the way, just blows you away. His stuff is so good. Is it Tom Valenti was it Tom Valenti, tomvalenti.org or .net? What is your website, Tom, so we can get some of these wonderful people to see your amazing work, you know? So this would be tight detail, and look, you can see with this eraser, I can start get some real exact erasing, right? So that's really good. This one is the chisel, the Mono Zero chisel. These are all by Tombow. So what I did is I cut it into like a chisel shape, and then you can get like super, watch this. Bam, look at that. Just like really sharp edge. Just really great. So that's so cool. Then we also have this Nock erasers for more, you don't want to tear into the surface, you want to do some larger areas, and that's where this will come into play. So you see here, we'll just, it's soft, it's not digging into the surface. Remember, when you're erasing, more surface area means less damage, more pounds per square inch. When you took karate, you know, we're always told to punch with these two knuckles, because if you hit somebody with two knuckles, it's more pounds per square inch, and you'll do a lot more damage than if you were to hit with all four knuckles, plus you're going to break your hand. So if you hit with these two knuckles, you'll do far more damage. So the Nock eraser, K-N-O-C-K, my friend. Tom says I'm really doing great work. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. That means a lot to me, Tom. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Very encouraging, my friend. And so let's continue to bring this down. So Tom, I know you had a traditional background when it comes to painting, right, Tom? I know you're mostly self-taught, but you did study for quite some time in art school. So tell me, Tom, what was the way that you were told airbrush art was back then? And I would love to hear, you know, from your vantage point, if you have time. And I'm just going to continue with this value here. Yes, the knock, you'll really love it. If you don't have it yet, if you can't get in your area, let me know and I'll see what I can do. So you see, now we are starting to get her anatomy really getting in there, and you really are starting to feel, because her neck really is such an important part of her expression. I mean, the way the muscles are and they're contracting. So Thomas says no one really mentioned it in the fine art group, all oil and watercolor. Exactly. So it was oil, watercolor, that's it. I started doing pastel because I was with a progressive teacher, Harvey Dinnerstein, where he was one of the few people at the time who was doing pastels as finished works of art. So yeah, it was oil and watercolor, right, Tom? And so, you know, that's so true. And so, yes, 30 years ago, same thing with me. 40 years ago, 30 years ago with me, same difference, right? It was... you know, the whole attitude was totally different, and I think it was because our teachers were just limited with their experience of this medium, and I really wish that they would have not said that, you know. I mean, or I didn't listen to them, because I would have used Airbrush so much earlier, and it would have made my art better. And I don't think it would have hurt it at all. And also would have opened up a lot of opportunities to make some money, you know. I wouldn't have to have had a lot of odd jobs, you know, to pay the bills. So I do love the fact that Airbrush is so versatile. You know, so many people say if it's standing still, you can paint it, you know. That's so true, right? What are some of the craziest things that you guys have painted in Airbrush? If, you know, you guys have anything, I would love to hear. So Tone says that the phone was ringing. That's cool. That means you're popular. You know, my phone doesn't ring, but that's okay, you know. Not very popular. And also we can see how her neck, that the muscles sort of come in just like that there. So let's use our freehand shield to get that beautiful hard edge here. Perpendicular and not parallel. And I'm not worried about this because this is our freehand, our frisket, which is keeping that from there, from going in. And just the beautiful hard edges that are achievable are really beneficial. And it's all about, you know, the effect that we're having, you know, the effect our work is having, you know, visually. Different things that we can do to just take it to the next level, you know. So this is a good time. So this is super soft. This is our softest of the soft erasers. And this is, of course, the needed eraser. And that's needed with a K, but you do need it with an N too. So, so here's one quick tip. If you do have one of these erasers, and this is from my early art school days, if you just keep doing this, it's self-cleaning. And I know everyone probably knows that, but you know, there might be one person who's watching this video and be like, oh my God, mine's completely horrible and all I had to do was that. Yep, that's all you have to do. And of course, as you get further down in time, it gets more in oils and more and more graphite and whatnot in there. And then it gets to the point where you just have to draw it out. So I work every day, so this usually takes about a month before it's too gross and I have to draw it out. When you have a big thing like this, you know, like, don't ever just have this as one big, huge kneaded eraser. I see people, they have this huge kneaded eraser, you know, and they're You want it small so you can manipulate it into whatever shape you want, and this way you see how you can handle it very easily. So you don't want to have a big clump of kneaded eraser. Like I said, there's someone out there who that spoke to, and that's who I did that for. Okay, so as you see, I'm always adjusting, always looking around. So kneaded eraser, this is a good time. Remember we worked on the dark of that clavicle on the edge. Let's go ahead and get rid of any pencil lines that might still be there. Same thing over here. Wait till we come in with the white pastel at the end. That's really going to pop this out, you know. Pop out her clavicle. That sounds painful, you know. Sorry, I don't want to pop out her clavicle. That's something I don't want to do. And there'll be no pop in here. Like I said, you know, I can entertain myself. Okay, so we're just going to get rid of all superfluous pencil lines in here, even on the edge here. Now remember, we had contour, shape, value, edge, and then the value within the shape, or the information within the shape. So here we have information in the shape. It's not this just very large value area, but it's something going on in the middle here. See that? So it's the shape within the shape is the final thing that you want to look for. And let's just buttress up this value to this lighter value. Try not to stay in the same area, because you keep spraying in the same area, you're going to have a buildup of tone, and then eventually you're going to have spidering and staining. So remember, you can come back and darken. You can always darken, but lighting's a pain in the neck. Unless you're working with thick impasto oil paints, and we're not doing that here. So we're working with light sprays of tone, of value. So we have to be subtle. And so you always want to build from light to dark, light to dark. That's always the way you want to do with this technique. And that's why I have my mixtures, you know. We have the light, we have the medium, and the dark mixture. And then you work and you follow the mixtures. You don't ever have to worry about dilution. You don't ever have to worry about whether it's too dark or too light. For this technique, it's going to work out perfect every time. Like minute rice, but different. So that's be my slogan, you know. Hey Philip, how you doing? Good to see ya. So glad you're here. So that's great. So we have Phil in the house. That's nice. Like I said, the people who are meant to be here are here. So I don't really worry about numbers. I would like it for a lot of people to enjoy this and everything like that, but that's not the main reason, you know. So the right people are here always. So if you guys, this video is sponsored by no one. So it's sponsored by Tim. And so what I'm going to do, since it's getting close to the 11 o'clock hour, I always do 2 hours for you, and then a short, you know, sponsorship. So my sponsor today is me. So let's see if we can get, okay, so here you see we have my website, paintedglyphs.com, and on paintedglyphs.com you could learn about my Airbrush workshops, which is really fantastic. It's only $2.99 for 18 hours of intense one-on-one instruction. I use G Suite software so I can see what you're doing. You can see what I'm doing. I could watch you while you're talking to me. I can give you instructions, see how you're doing, and correcting you. It's better than if you were in my studio because it's totally safe, you know. So definitely look into that if you're interested. It will take your, and it comes with a free set of my ink mixtures. So this is something that everyone who's taken my class, their work has gone to the next level almost immediately. So you also have another program which is quite exciting, and I just rolled this out this month, and that is my mentorship program. So my mentorship program basically is only $25 per week, and with that $25 a week, you get a one-on-one class every week, up to 2 hours, between 1 and 2 hours, and we go over your project together. Whatever you're working on, we can work on that together. We can do anatomy. We can do all different kinds of things that are pertaining to your current painting that you're working on. Also comes with a 1-hour group class. And so we'll be talking about fine art techniques, selling your work on eBay, framing your work, preserving your paintings, proper archival techniques, stuff like that. And a video critique of your artwork of choice each week for $25 a week, and you can go ahead and purchase that right there and start with the program. I currently have 3 students, and so this is very exciting. So get in on the ground floor. And of course you can order the India inks that I have here, and that's such a great bargain, $16.95, $5 shipping. Also, the cool thing is I ship it international, and it's only $14.95. So basically, I'll be paying part of that shipping for you. So definitely, because I want my international people to try this. Anyway, so that was my sponsorship, and it was sponsored by me, Tim. So let's go ahead and come back here. Oh, so Phil says, sorry so late, but better late than never. That is so true. I'm so glad you're here. So Brad says, Brad's one of my shining examples. He did this amazing portrait. We had a lot of fun together, and he's also doing the mentorship program. So he's somebody to talk to about this. So definitely pretty exciting stuff. So every video has to be sponsored, and if I don't have a sponsor for that video, I'm going to use that to, you know, me be the sponsor. You got to have a commercial, you know. I mean, it's a bummer, but you know. But I think it's something important. I think you guys out there, guys and girls who are airbrushing, definitely could take your work to the next level. I have Brad's in Canada. I have another great student. He's in the UK. I have students all over the country. So I have really, you know, great software. I have a great internet connection. So it's a very seamless, experience if anyone's interested. So really cool that I'm able to offer that. I wish I had something like that. I wouldn't have to take all those trains and buses there, Tom. You know, I remember one year, I'm at like 19 years old, and I'm crossing Madison Avenue, and I have my paint box, and I have my portfolio case, which is huge. It's like 24 by 30, something huge like that. And I'm crossing in the snow, and I went flying head first into the snow in the middle of Madison Avenue, and I'll tell you, a bus was coming, and it was crazy. So if you take my class online, think about it. You won't have a bus coming at you on Madison Avenue. So right there is the best slogan. Take my online class, because a bus won't be coming at you on Madison Avenue. So I think that's, I'm going to actually use that. So as you see, I really like the way that her anatomical forms are coming out. I just want to very lightly establish this, ever so lightly. So if you see, if I change my camera angle here, let's lift this up. So you see how far I am when I'm doing a very light value. Look at that. I'm pretty far away. So let's see. I am approximately about 3 to 4 inches away. So, you know, when you're doing really light value, you can, distance is everything. Distance is not important. Distance is everything when it comes to painting an airbrush. And I really want to really bring that home. And you see my ink mixtures? Right, where is it? Over here. So I practice what I preach. You know, I use what I teach, and that's important. And I'm not in this for the money. You know, there's a lot easier ways to make money. That's for sure. I just love it, and I really care about people who love art too. So you see, that's how this gets done. So it's more of a broad and a lighter. So I'm going to use a knock eraser. There we go. And so I think there's like 28 bones in the hand. So is it 28 or 27? I think it's 28 bones in the hand and 27 in the foot. So if any of you guys could Google that, see how far off I was. See, because what's good when I'm doing these anatomical lessons, anatomy lessons, I'm brushing up on my stuff as well. So practicing what I preach, and what's good for you guys is good for me, you know. Pretty soon we're going to go in with the medium mixture, and that's always the next step, you know. Yeah, I always go over the 18 hours. That 18 hours is a loose number. It's really more important that we finish the project we're working on. And that's, you know, I don't ever want my student to have a half-finished painting and say, adios, amigo, huevos rancheros, you know, and then they go off with, well, I never learned how to finish the hair. Well, that's not going to be the case if you took my class. You know, you'll have a student that cares. I mean, I had teachers that care. You have a teacher that cares about their students. I had teachers who cared. And whether it was in karate, or whether it was in art, or whether it was in English literature in college, I was very blessed to have teachers that cared. And what a difference that makes, huh? I mean, to have somebody who actually cares is really amazing. So, so important. So let's go back. And now, what we can do is we'll start working on this part of her lip there, and we can go back to Krita and really look at the measurements as well. So always use whatever tool that's going to make your work better. You know, I'm not talking about using total mechanical means or anything. Sure, eyeball it, that's fine, you can eyeball it. But if you can do something to bring the work to the next level, that's always best. Oh, Tom says he's known me for a long time and he can attest to the fact that you are most certainly. Oh, thank you, Tom. And I second that notion to you, you know. I really appreciate that, Tom. Yes, it's, there's nothing that, between friends, between family members, it's always so important is that knowledge that that person actually cares about the other person. And I think that's so important in teaching, you know. Thank you, Tom, and me as well. You know, you're a great guy. You know, Tom was the president of the Allied Artists of America. Hey, Jake, how's it going? Good to see you, my friend. So we are in the presence of greatness there. So Tom, and the Allied Artists of America is one of the oldest, most prestigious art organizations in the country, if not the world. So that's really cool. So it's always great to have Tom, and just to realize, who he is just so fantastic. And what an honor to have you in my live stream. So, okay, so we're going to go back to Krita, and let's hit Control Z and get rid of our lines. And what we're going to do is we're going to study the mouth, her mouth. And one of the things I want to ask myself, and I'm going to actually move over here, and let me get to the correct screen over here so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I'm just going to come here, and there we go. Okay, there we see her mouth. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask myself, see this angle right here? Let's go back to our linear tool here. That's this tool right here. And so I want to basically see what angle this is. And it's really not straight. So if I look at it, right, I'm not seeing it totally straight. It's almost like, okay, so you see where that turn is? It's not quite at 3 o'clock. It's going down just a wee bit. And so with that being said, we know exactly what angle that's at. And then from the corner of the mouth, we're looking at 5 o'clock. And the corner of the mouth here, we're looking at 7. And then if we look here and we do a straight angle straight up from here, we can see almost right in the middle of that nostril. And then right here, it's kind of interesting how it kind of corresponds. There are no accidents. There's design. I got that off a little bit. We'll just bring that straight down. See how the lines are parallel? So that really helps. And then we can also look at these lines here. And you see how they sort of intersect with the fulcrum? Those things are really cool to see. So now at least I have an idea of what to look for. That's not quite at 3 o'clock, right? Let's go back here and come over there like this. Oh wow, how cool. So now you're an honorary member, so that's fantastic. Yeah, Tom was the president for 11 years, and when I first met Tom, he was recently elected at the time, and he was such a great president. You really took that incredible organization and brought it to even a higher level. So how cool is that? All right, so now we're going to her mouth with that new information that we got from Krita. So we see that this line here is not quite 3 o'clock. So it looks like I did get that right, but maybe I overemphasized that. I got the angle just a little bit too much because it's not quite at 3 o'clock, but very close nonetheless. And then from the corner of the mouth, remember it was 7 o'clock? But it was 7 o'clock from this part of her mouth, not the sort of lip ridge over here, which is just outside of the lip, right? That ridge of the lip. So that is what we're seeing, not the actual lip. So getting deeper involved in things like that is going to take that work to the next level. We can't always trust our eyes. We can't. We're people. We're biased. We think of what our subconscious is telling us what a lip is. You know what I mean? And we have to fight that. And we got to use any tool we can to get a correct assessment of nature. It's funny, the live streams sometimes take on their own nature, right? They take on a shape of their own. And this one is just, they've definitely taken the shape of, an anatomy lesson and, measuring, and mostly these are drawing principles. So, so important, but I'm glad I'm able to impart them to you guys and girls. Because this is the stuff you're only going to get in art school. You're not going to get this, or if you're doing you know, a workshop with someone who's like really, grounded, but you're not going to get this in your normal videos, that's for sure. This is not 101. This is like 404, college level class here. How do I know? Because I took those classes. I studied in the studio environment, and I also studied in a university environment. So I know how advanced this is, and I really appreciate you guys for sticking with it, because I know it's not your typical fun video, but it's something that you need. Remember, there's a time when a baby needs milk, but you know what? There's a time when the baby grows up and they need some meat. And meat you have to chew and you have to digest, and it's not as easy, but that's why, like I said, I don't placate the audience. I give my people what they need, not necessarily of what's easy to digest. Even if you're attending my live stream, I'm going to make your brain work hard. So you notice as I'm coming in with this dark, I'm not staying in the same area, so I'm not getting the spidering. And the spidering happens when you stay in the same area and don't let the paper catch up to the medium. So if you're working in oils, you want to make the canvas catch up before you keep moving things around. You're going to get mud, so you want the same thing, You want to make sure that you are not oversaturating and letting the medium dry first. The media, which in this case is ink, or if you're working in watercolor or whatever. I mean, there are techniques, of course, in watercolor that you want to do wet on wet. That's all cool, but when you're doing something like this, you definitely want to make sure that you're not spidering, because when we're working in airbrush, it definitely has certain properties that you have to work around. To every advantage of a medium, there's always a corresponding disadvantage, I feel. Airbrush has these amazing advantages of getting these hard edges and super gradations and everything like that. But the disadvantages are you're dealing with wet media, you're dealing with ink, you're dealing with 3 dimensions, you're dealing with pounds per square inch on a compressor. So yeah, there are advantages, and you have to work within the disadvantages as well. And that's part of accepting the medium, working within the disadvantages as well as the advantages. Every medium has its disadvantages. So it looks like we lost Wendy. I hope she's doing okay. And we're just going to try and do some of that reflected light underneath that lip there. And great, so now we have to worry about this. And remember, this was at 7 o'clock. So remember, we measured that at 7. So let's go ahead and make that happen. So, okay, so why am I doing, different, so right here, right? So when I say 7 o'clock, that's angles. So here is our clock, right? Okay, so 7 o'clock. So here's 6, 12, 3, 9. So 7 o'clock is right here. 5 o'clock is right here. 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's how you can find pretty much where your angles are. And that's really going to help. Oh wow! So that's great to hear. Thanks, Brad. Brad says if he didn't find me, he might have quit. Well, I'm glad you didn't. You're such a talented airbrush painter. I think you would have definitely caught on anyway. Maybe I helped you catch on quicker, Brad. Right? Definitely. And I'm so glad that you are, working in the medium and you're doing so great. So I really appreciate that, Brad. Thank you for saying that. Really, really appreciate it. So remember 7 o'clock, right? So let's go ahead and make 7 o'clock happen. We're going to use our freehand shield because it's kind of a hard edge. And let's go ahead and make this happen. I'm going to be a good distance because I just want to dust it, right? I don't want to go crazy. Just dust it. There we go. So once we dusted that at that 7 degree. Oh, thanks. Thank you so much, Brad. I always say my errors, my trials stop you from having your mistakes. So my trials save you mistakes. So, I always, whenever I have any kind of issues, I always write it down, try and find a resolution, and then pass that on over to you guys. So one of the latest things, if you do catch my latest video on Frisket film, if you haven't, in the very beginning there's a tip on there that is just priceless, and it's going to change the way you cut Frisket film. So watch that. Boy, isn't that like like a good introduction or something like that to get you to watch it. Watch that video. It's going to change your life. But definitely, guys, watch that video on Frisket film. There is a tip there that a friend told me that really has helped my Frisket cutting. And I just learned that maybe about a couple weeks ago. Whoop, got a little. There we go. So you see, as you can see now, we are getting the shape of her lip down pretty well. John has to go. So John, have a safe week. Always a pleasure. And, keep doing the great work that you're doing. So I really love what you're working on. I can't believe we're at 11:16 already. Look at that. So we've actually gone pretty far into this portrait. So definitely we're not going to start the medium mixture today. We're probably going to work on that next week. So this is probably going to have a part, I would say we're probably going to go up to part 7 on this one. But I'm actually liking the way she's looking. It's not perfect, but it's still early, right? And no artwork is perfect. I'm going to dust that bottom lip a little bit, and then we're going to come and erase that light. So we want to make sure that we get a lot of the subtlety and not have things too strong. Philip says, I know you paint on cardstock, 184 pound. Correct, yes. But what other medium is good to paint on with ink? Tom says he types slow. Oh, me too, man. I'm like really slow typing. Hunt and peck. That's my typing method. What I work on, I also work on masonite. And here's an example of something I work on masonite. This is just something I'm working on here with colored inks. So this is masonite, and it is panel, wood panel, and it's treated with gesso and my marble dust mixture. And let me see if I have a clean example of it. Okay, here's another painting that I did with India ink only, and this is with that. See here, this is a female nude that I did, and you can see that it is totally on wood panel, and the India ink works really well. Oh yes, this is this. Oh, so Tom is talking about this mixture as well. So I'm still using the same mixture, Tom. So it's great that you said that. So this is my marble dust and gesso mixture with water, and I put it on with a roller. Three coats, one this way, one that way, one this way, letting it dry and sand in between coats. And this is a wood panel that you can get at Dick Blick. They're hardboard panels. 9 by 12 is something like $2 or something cheap. You can get 6 by 6s and work on. They're really great. Now, the great thing, yes, and oil too. You can actually work on this with oil. And Tom did a really cool painting on one of these panels with the gesso. I believe I gave you one, and you did something really fantastic on it. So that was so cool. So Tom and I have been friends for many, many years. I've been at his place. He's been at my place, and so really great guy. So a lot of water under the bridge, me and Tom. So he actually did something fantastic on this. The great thing about working on here, like I said, every advantage is a disadvantage, right? So this is 9 by 12, so it's really thin. So I would say, let me see, it is probably a 1/16 of an inch. Yeah, 1/16 of an inch. Let me see if I get an angle. So right there, like a 1/16 of an inch or something like that. So it's really thin, maybe an 1/8 of an inch. And so I'm going to send you a link on that, Brad, so you can actually work on this. So that's, yes, the Dunkin' Donuts. I love that painting. Yeah, unbelievable. Yeah, the Dunkin' Donuts painting. That was a good painting, So, but the thing is with that, you can do more scratching techniques with razor blades. You could use sandpaper, and you can go ahead and get different kinds of values and stuff. Also, with the roller, you'll notice that there is a inherent skin texture that comes with the actual texture of the board with the masonite and gesso. So definitely wood panels really good. You can work ink on metal. So it's all depending on how you treat the actual panel itself. So those are the two that I worked on. Actually, three. I worked on, metal. But, metal is more, to me, of a novelty. I don't really see the great value in working on metal. Unless I'm practicing for something else. One of the great thing is that you can actually make the, you can actually use this as an underpainting, and you can go in with acrylic over the ink. You can go in oils over the ink. So you could really have the most amazing underpainting. So look at this. This is the finished work. It's sold. But if I wanted to do an oil painting, this would be like the most amazing grisaille or underpainting. So many applications that you could use with the India inks. And more importantly, my India inks, which is only $16.95 for the full set. So Brad says he bought a 4x8 sheet of it, and to make a drawer out of it, and only use a little over half. So yes, look at all the boards you can make. So Luis says, Yupo synthetic paper, I haven't used it. I don't have an opinion on it, unfortunately, but I hear good things about Yupo. One of the caveats when using synthetic paper, and Tom, who's a fine artist, will also, what are the archival products? I mean, how long has this paper been around? What's it going to do in 10 years? What's it going to do in 15 years? Those are questions. If you're doing artwork that you want to last, you have to ask that question. Unfortunately, that's a question you have to ask. That's why you don't work on newsprint. That's why you don't work on cardboard. That's why you don't work on canvas board. You want to make sure that you know the archival qualities of that. We do want the work to last. So when it comes to those synthetic papers, I think they're great as far as what people are doing with them. But still, my question is this. What's it going to do in 10 years? Do you guys know? What's it going to do in 20 years? Is it going to yellow? Is it going to buckle? Is it going to turn into that paper that's on the Declaration of Independence where it's all crinkly? We don't know yet. So those are things that we really have to see. It's like when Leonardo da Vinci did those the Last Supper, it looked really good, but he didn't know over time it was going to get totally destroyed, right? And just have a real problem with age as far as archival qualities and how it's going to be affected with the elements, just natural elements, right? Elements of just air and just oxygenation, oxygenization, or something like that, right? That's the word. Anyway, yeah, when oxygen hits it. So, when I was in art school, that was something that we had to study was, having things archival. Clayboard is great. That's great stuff. I love it. It's fantastic, but I always gesso over it. And that really helps because, when I get clayboard, I always want to make sure that I'm controlling the surface the best I can. So I might add just a little more, a couple of coats of gesso with maybe a little bit or a lot of marble dust to get the exact texture I want. Clayboard's fantastic. How about the ampersand? They make the most amazing pastel boards. Those are really fantastic. And I've seen Airbrush people use the pastel boards. They're pricey though. They are very pricey. So, making your own or working on paper is much less costly. Tone says he's too old to wait 20 years to see what it I hear you. I hear you, my friend. It's all up to your decision. You're the artist, And, like I said, every advantage has a disadvantage. And the advantage of working on synthetic paper is that it's just really great for airbrush and the way that you can scratch and stuff like that. But the disadvantage, of course, is you don't know what it's going to do in 20 years. But if you can live with the disadvantage, then that's all good, But I've seen people work on canvas boards and just do these really amazing canvas board paintings on canvas board, and that stuff is just deteriorating like crazy. So, always have that as a thought in the back of your mind. What does it do? How is it going? Is it something that's going to be an issue? I mean, am I painting this for just today, or am I painting this going to be a legacy of who I was? Everyone has a different answer to that question. I think you all are fine artists, and I think you all your work is important, and and I want all your work to survive us. I want it to be there, 60 years from now, 70 years from now. I want people to see how amazing you were, how amazing you are now. But I want future generations to see that. I mean, it's amazing how we as people can just, not just exist, but create, right? That's really, really amazing stuff. I mean, I feel it's amazing. So, my live streams are not your normal airbrush live stream. You're going to get a whole different viewpoint on this. I'm not going to just, talk about, your typical airbrush guy from California, but, it's going to be a little different, my own experiences. And that's what's cool. I'm not a badass. Let's just put that way. I'm not a badass, and I don't have to portray that. I'm just Tim. And studying with me has its good parts and its bad parts, just like anything else. That's kind of the whole thing of the day. It's like there are advantages and disadvantages. Brad says, great live stream as usual. Thank you so much. Thank you, Brad. Brad, have a great night. And take care, my friend. And Luis says he's very interested in painting on canvas board, but I guess cloth texture must be smoothed out. If you're working on canvas board, remember the board is cardboard underneath the canvas, and the canvas is actually really cheap. So go ahead and maybe work on something else besides the canvas board. That's my advice, but it's totally up to you. Tone, thank you so much. And Brad, thank you for that wonderful compliment. A good show. And thank you so much. And Tone, thank you. Phil says he missed what he said about the archival qualities of cardstock. Cardstock, I only get really good stuff. This is Canson cardstock. It's completely archival. It will last forever. It's light fast, so it's not going to fade over time. So this is completely good stuff. So this stuff is very high quality, and will 300 years ago it'll look like this. So Mike says, "Hey Tim, you look like a badass with some." Yeah, I'm not much of a badass, but thank you for saying that, Mike. Good to see you. Better late than never, I always say. So I'm so glad. I got to get some tats, right? You know, I think I should. No, but that's all cool stuff. I love my fellow airbrush artists who are badasses, and I appreciate them, and I think they're really cool. But that's just not me. But thanks, guys. Look at that. It's 11:30. You know what that means? Thank you so much for hanging out with me. We did great today. We are getting to a nice number. Next week is going to be what? The media mixture. And that's the next step. And we'll see. We'll start darkening things up. And thank you, everybody, for hanging out with me. And stay safe and continue creating good stuff.